Today's story is about such a con man who was once known as the king of the con world. Someone who pulled off such a unique and extraordinary con that even America's biggest gangster at the time was amazed by his cunning. And even the French police, after learning of the con, kept searching for him but never managed to catch him. So, who was this con man? What was the con he pulled off, and how did he do it? You'll be shocked to hear it. The con man's name was Victor Lustig. Since he was such a big con man, people believed that even this might not have been his real name. But he was famously known by this name, and nobody ever knew his true identity. The biggest reason for this was that whenever he traveled to another country to con someone, he would change his appearance and name every time. And that's why he had many fake passports, each with a different name. It's believed that he lived for a total of 49 years between 1890 and 1947. And during these 49 years, his biggest con was selling the Eiffel Tower in Paris, not just once, but twice. The story begins in Paris, France, where he used to carry out small-time cons. He was so skilled and clever that before this big con, he had already pulled off around 40 successful cons. Victor was very fond of playing cards, because of which he had mastered card tricks. Using those tricks, he committed thefts that were truly shocking and unbelievable. Because of these small cons and thefts, he had been to jail several times before, but each time he managed to get out. Apart from theft and con, Victor had a strong command over Italian, French, and English, which helped him a lot in his scams. Even though he was born in the Czech Republic, by the age of 20, he had moved to Paris, where he started small thefts like pickpocketing. Victor soon realized that because of his mastery in card tricks, he could pickpocket very cleanly without anyone noticing. That's when he decided to polish his skills even more so he could carry out bigger thefts and frauds. And from here began Victor's journey of conning, the one that made him the king of conmen. Back then, luxury ships used to run between France and America, and they carried extremely rich people who were connected to high society. These were Victor's prime targets. Victor booked a ticket on one of those France to America ships, dressed in expensive shoes and a fine suit, and boarded the ship. He told people that he came from a very wealthy family, but also shared that he was a grounded person and was going to America for charity. He knew very well that people trust rich and generous individuals very quickly and easily. During conversations, he also told people that he was the biggest producer on Broadway, known for theater and arts, based in New York. He convinced them that he was about to launch a new musical show and was looking for investors. Impressed by his clothes and lifestyle, people believed him and even gave him money to invest. In this way, every time on ships between France and America, he would change his disguise and loot people. As soon as he received the money, he would disappear from the ship at the right moment. But in 1914, because of the First World War, these luxury ships stopped running frequently, and people avoided traveling on them due to the rising dangers. That's when Victor decided to find a new path for con. Instead of going back to France, he stayed in America and started planning his next con. But this time, Victor was not alone. With him was another man named Dan Collins, and together they planned a scam that played a very important role in Victor's conning journey. This scam was called the Romanian Money Box. It was a wooden box designed in such a way that it looked like a real machine. They would tell people that this box could print copies of any currency note in the world. Their claim was that if a $100 bill and their special chemicals were inserted into the box, it would produce a copy of that $100 bill. The copy was so real, it could even be used in a bank. When people asked why they were selling the box if it could print money, Victor would reply that the box takes 6 hours to make a single copy and can only be used again after 12 hours. So, since it takes 18 hours to print a single note, they were selling the boxes instead of using them themselves. Listening to this, people easily believed them and agreed to buy the box. Victor and his partner Dan Collins would explain how the box worked, take a $100 bill from the buyer and insert it into the box along with printing paper and ink to make the whole process look real. They had already placed a real $100 bill inside the box, and after 6 hours, they would open it and give that note to the buyer, along with returning the original note the buyer had given. This made people truly believe that the box could print money. To further win trust, they would even go to the bank with the buyers and deposit that fake, but actually real note without raising any suspicion. Their credibility increased rapidly, and they sold those boxes for thousands of dollars. Some boxes were sold for as much as $100,000 in those days. This became their most successful scam and made them the most money. But Victor's greed knew no limits. He believed he was made for something even bigger. Also, creating these money printing boxes took a lot of time and effort. After selling a few boxes in one area, they would also have to move elsewhere to avoid being caught. So Victor decided he would now con banks. But he was so clever and cunning that even after being caught in one of these bank scams, he managed to escape. On the morning of 13 February 1922, Victor reached an American savings bank in Missouri and introduced himself as Robert Duval. He told the bank manager that he had government bonds from the First World War worth $32,000, but cashing them through the government was taking time, and he urgently needed money. So he offered to give those bonds to the bank in exchange for $10,000 in cash. The bank manager agreed immediately after hearing this and began the paperwork for the bond and money exchange. Since Victor had mastered card tricks, his sleight of hand was also astonishing, and it seems the story continues from here. He used this trick to replace the real bundles with normal paper during the transaction. He made the switch so cleanly that the bank manager continued believing the envelope still contained the real bundles. In this way, he now had bonds worth $32,000 and $100 in cash, which he scammed from the bank. The bank was scammed out of almost $42,000, which in today's value would be around $300,000. As soon as the scam was discovered, the bank sprang into action and hired a special detective to catch Victor. Just 12 days after the scam, Victor was caught in the city of Kansas in America. Now, what happened here will make you wonder how someone can escape a bank fraud just with their words. After being caught, he told the bank manager that if the news of his arrest and the scam got out, it would severely damage the bank's reputation, and their clients would lose trust in them, leading to huge losses. This bank had a very good reputation, and they did not want any controversy associated with them. So they decided not to hand Victor over to the police and instead gave him $1,000 from the scammed $100 as well. In this way, even after getting caught, he escaped using his wit and cleverness. As I told you earlier, Victor had already been to jail several times because of these frauds and thefts, but every time he managed to get out somehow. That's why he was becoming famous as a con man, and people started recognizing him, which made it hard for him to continue scamming. So he decided to go back to his city, Paris, where he had started his petty thefts. After returning to Paris, he committed the biggest scam of his life, one that even other con men couldn't imagine, a scam so shocking that whoever heard it was left stunned. One morning, Victor was sitting drinking coffee and reading the newspaper. Suddenly, his eyes fell on an article about the Eiffel Tower. The article mentioned that the Eiffel Tower needed maintenance and that it was becoming too expensive for the government to maintain. So, the government was now thinking of demolishing the Eiffel Tower. That's when he got the idea to sell the Eiffel Tower, a thrilling scam in itself. Victor decided this time he would scam a group of metal dealers. His plan was to tell them that the government wanted to get rid of the Eiffel Tower and was looking for metal dealers who could buy the iron, metal, and steel used in the tower. Since this was supposedly a government project, he had to convince people that he was a government official. So he got help from a fake document maker who made him a fake government ID. Now, wherever Victor went to talk about the Eiffel Tower, he showed that fake ID, which convinced people that he was a government official. After talking to several people, he called 5 top metal dealers in Paris for a secret meeting at a very expensive hotel. there, he introduced himself as a high-ranking government officer and told them the government had selected these 5 people, out of whom one would be chosen to buy the entire Eiffel Tower's iron, metal, and steel. They could all place their bids. He specifically emphasized that no one should talk about this meeting with anyone because the government didn't want to announce anything yet. During the meeting, Victor noticed Andrew Pizon, who was one of the 5 metal dealers. Andrew's business was the smallest among them, and he had a weak personality. That was the moment Victor found his target. Because his business was small, Andrew was desperate to grow his name and business. Victor realized he could easily trap him. So he arranged a separate meeting with Andrew and told him that, among all the others, he had the least chance of getting the contract because his company was the smallest. But Victor wanted him to get the contract so that his business could grow, and for that, Andrew would have to bribe him. Andrew agreed easily, and they settled on a bribe of 120,000 francs. As soon as Victor got the money, he fled to Austria, where he stayed in a hotel, waiting for the storm from this scam to settle down. But the surprising thing was that no newspaper in France reported the scam, and even the police didn't hear anything about it. Victor started wondering why Andrew hadn't reported the scam. He figured that maybe Andrew didn't report it out of fear of ruining his own reputation since his company was still small and this news could destroy his business. When Victor felt there was no danger and no one knew about the scam, he decided to do it again. That same year, he returned to Paris, selected 5 different people, and used the same method. But this time, the dealer he chose grew suspicious of Victor and informed the police about the deal. However, Victor was always very alert during his scam, so he found out that the police were onto him. He escaped from France to America via ship. After reaching America, he pulled off another scam that became very famous at the time. This time, his target was Al Capone. Al Capone was the biggest gangster in America back then, and even the police trembled in fear of him. Victor knew very well that if he scammed Al Capone directly, he'd be shot immediately. So this time, the method he used proved just how skilled Victor was in his art. He had a special ability to read people's behavior and psychology. He could easily understand how someone would react in a certain situation, which set him apart from other conmen. He told Al Capone that he needed $50,000 to carry out a scam and promised that the money would double and they would split the profit afterward. But Victor didn't do any scam. Instead, he deposited the money in a bank account. After some time, he withdrew the money and returned to Al Capone. He told him that the scam had failed and most of the money had been lost, but he had still managed to save some of it and came to return it. Since Al Capone had only seen betrayal and violence his whole life, he found Victor's behavior very strange and unique. Victor was the first person to ever return even part of his money. Capone was very impressed by this and started believing Victor was an honest and trustworthy man. And that's exactly what Victor wanted. Happy with Victor's honesty, Al Capone gave him $55,000. And in this way, Victor scammed Al Capone not once, but twice. First, by taking $50,000, and second, by gaining his trust and getting $55,000 more. Victor kept pulling off small and big scams for years, until he was last seen in 1930 in Barcelona. After that, no one knows where Victor went, whether he was alive or dead. This was the story of that master conman who pulled off many small and big scams, even sold Paris's Eiffel Tower and never got caught. How did you like the story? Write in the comments and let us know. Like and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.